we all set to go? You? We're all good? Okay. Hello and welcome. My name is Kate Beaton, Movement Organizing Director for Citizen Action of Wisconsin. I want to start by acknowledging that we are on ancestral lands of the Ojibwa, Menominee, Ho-Chunk, and Dakota Indigenous people. And I want to express gratitude and recognition to the Indigenous peoples who occupied and stewarded this land before us, and those who we call neighbors today. At Citizen Action, we know that from Superior to Milwaukee, Wisconsinites just want a future where our communities are thriving, our families can earn a good living, and our land, air, and water are healthy and beautiful. Citizen Action of Wisconsin is working to harness Wisconsin's collective power to bring bold structural change from our town boards to the White House for an equitable transition to clean energy, to fight climate change, and to build a future that allows everyone to thrive in Wisconsin. Thank you so much for joining us on Earth Day as part of Citizen Action's Climate Week of Action. Right now we are outside of the Joint Finance Committee hearing in Menominee, where members of the legislature will hear testimony on Governor Evers' proposed budget. We have the opportunity in this budget to be stewards of our earth, fight climate change, create good paying, clean jobs for Wisconsinites, and build our economy back better than it was before the pandemic. We are calling on the Joint Finance Committee and the Wisconsin legislature to do what people all across Wisconsin, Democrats and Republicans, have been asking for: to invest in a clean and equitable economy that doesn't poison our land and water and air. It's my privilege to introduce to you today our speakers. Citizen Action of Wisconsin member, Reverend David Huber, Eau Claire City Council member, Jeremy Gregert, Northern Thunder organizer, Diana Witcher, Government Relations Director for the Wisconsin Farmers Union, Nick Lewandowski, and State Senator Jeff Smith, representing the 31st Senate District and member of the Governor's Task Force on Climate Change. Thank you.
Thank you for being here this morning. I'm Reverend David Huber. I am with Citizen Action Northwest Co-op. Used to be on the board, but no longer, but part of the environmental group, and also I lobby with Citizens Climate Lobby and work with Jonah, joining our neighbors, advancing hope. And do this because I think it's very important as a person of faith, as for me personally, follower of Jesus, to respect our planet, to respect the earth. The way that we treat our planet, the way that we treat our water, our air, our land is the way that we treat ourselves, and it's the way that we treat our neighbors. And we're all intimately connected to and are part of the ecology that is around us. As human beings, we're not separate from the environment, but we're part of it. And we have a moral responsibility to take care of it, because that's also how we take care of one another. The scriptures of many religions talk about loving our neighbors, and how we treat the world around us is how we treat our neighbors. And so it's very important also that we as people push for legislation, push for county and city resolutions to move to sustainable energy, as hopefully Dunn County will do, to petition our legislators to advance budgets that put more money into sustainable energy and move us away from fossil fuels, and that create more opportunity in the renewable and sustainable energy field so that we can reduce the amount of pollution. And so we can mitigate climate change and mitigate the greenhouse gases. This is a moral imperative. It really has become a critical time in the life of this planet and in the life of all of us to do things that will both mitigate climate change and reduce pollution, but also advance healthier solutions and create a more livable and sustainable world for all of us. So thank you for this time.
Happy Earth Day to everyone. Beautiful day, very fitting. I'm Jeremy Gregert. I serve on the Eau Claire City Council. I also am a consultant for the National Wildlife Federation, and really like to use this opportunity to connect the local to global and all the different layers of opportunity we have to address climate change, and including here today at the Joint Finance Committee hearing here in Menominee. I used to live here in Menominee 10 years ago. Used to actually work for the Student Center, so it's really great to be back here. I just spoke with Ryland Erdman, who serves on the City Council here in Menominee, and he actually couldn't be here today because he's installing solar. He's on a job site right now, kind of doing the real work that needs to be done to transition to renewable energy. You know, on the local level here, there's a 100% renewable energy goal in the city of Menominee. Dunn County is considering that goal as well over the next couple of months. So the local level is so important, and the state, through the Joint Finance Committee and through the recommendations of the Governor's Task Force on Climate Change and the Governor's budget, can really start to address you know, some of the state level goals that we really need to make and we really need to follow. On the national level, I signed on to a letter supporting President Biden's American Jobs Plan, which is starting to be rolled out over the last couple of weeks, and the president will really be going into the details next Wednesday for his joint address to Congress. And it has so many opportunities for environmental justice, for climate justice, moving toward 100% clean energy. Kate Beaton, who spoke earlier, I serve on the City Council with her. She also signed on to this letter supporting the American Jobs Plan, and 120 other state and local officials also signed on, including Senator Jeff Smith, who will be speaking later. You know, there's a lot to address in terms of, you know, making sure we're creating good quality union jobs in the clean energy sector and moving toward more resilient infrastructure as part of the American Jobs Plan. On the global level, there's a lot of opportunity, and we're seeing today with the kickoff of the Global Leaders Climate Summit that Secretary John Kerry is now hosting with 40 other leaders from 40 other countries around the world, and really that is to kind of ratchet up the commitment that was made through the Paris Climate Accord and make sure we're setting even stronger commitments than that. And President Biden will be introducing a lot more detail in terms of the United States' strengthened commitment over the next couple of days. And what we've been hearing is that, you know, a 50% reduction from 2005 levels in greenhouse gas emissions by the year 2030 is probably going to be the goal. So really exciting things on the local, state, national, and global level. And I'll pass it on to Diana Witcher from Northern Thunder.
Happy Earth Day! Thank you to everyone for being here today. Northern Thunder is a group of activists dedicated to protecting the environment in the upper Midwest. This grassroots organization was born as a student group on Earth Day in 1970 and organized many projects to promote environmental activism through 2008. Given the urgency of the climate crisis, we are working to revive Northern Thunder. We hope to raise awareness about environmental issues, collaborate with groups with parallel goals, and create real change through action and community organizing. Now I will share a quote by Rebecca Solnit. "We need to love the earth as it is now and see how worthy it is of our greatest efforts. To look for that beauty and treasure it is perhaps a crucial part of the work we have to do. This is what reminds us that the world is still full of things we love and want to protect, and the effort is worth it." On behalf of Northern Thunder, I'd like to thank Governor Evers for providing much-needed environmental leadership in Wisconsin, including proposed funding initiatives to help Wisconsin reach the goal of 100% carbon-free electricity by 2050. We welcome guidance for municipalities and grants to help local and tribal governments address climate change in our communities. The City of Menominee committed to a clean energy goal last year. We are excited that the Dunn County Board of Supervisors is currently drafting a resolution to become carbon neutral by 2050. We support the proposed State Office of Environmental Justice to collaborate with communities of color, tribal nations, and environmental justice advocates, and low-income residents to reduce pollution and address its significant impacts on our local communities. Our changing climate, along with increased flooding and drought, disproportionately impacts farmers. Health impacts of hot weather and reduced air quality affect our children, the elderly, and those with pre-existing conditions. We want to work together to bring needed change in our social and economic systems to protect vulnerable communities and uphold the ethic of care for our wild spaces, waterways, and natural resources in Wisconsin and the upper Midwest. Now I'd like to introduce Nick Lewandowski, Government Relations Director of the Wisconsin Farmers Union. Thank you, Nick, for being with us today.
Thank you, Diana, and happy Earth Day to everyone. It's good to be here on this beautiful day. I'm here representing the 2,000 family farm members of Wisconsin Farmers Union, and climate change affects farmers first and foremost because they depend on the climate to do what they do for a living. The effects of climate change are becoming clear across rural America and especially here in rural Wisconsin. Rising average temperatures, shifting precipitation patterns, and changing growing seasons. Increasingly frequent and severe weather events and rising sea levels are making it more difficult to grow the food, fuel, and fiber for the world. These difficulties will only intensify over time. However, farmers and ranchers hold immense power to address this crisis, and many already are. They have implemented conservation practices that build soil health, which make the land more resilient to extreme weather, and it helps to sequester carbon. They're also adopting climate-smart practices that reduce consumption of fossil fuels and inputs. Unfortunately, though, these practices have not yet reached widespread adoption. Only about 20% of farms in Wisconsin are using no-till and cover cropping practices. For some farmers, several barriers can prevent adoption of conservation practices. For example, access to information about specialized equipment, such as no-till planters, or decision-making support for farmers undergoing a transition to conservation practices. Wisconsin Farmers Union is actively working to educate farmers and other landowners about the benefits of managing the land for soil health. We're also advocating for the potential of farmer-led watersheds to improve water quality here in the state. Thank you very much, and I'll now turn it over to Senator Smith.
Well, thanks for being here today. What a nice day. What a nice day. You wouldn't think that there was climate change happening in the world today, but there is. You know, more and more every Wisconsinite is paying the cost of climate change. And whether it be through the health costs or costs associated with flooding, because we are now getting this annual 100-year flood. This year we might not, but we have been for so long. Extreme weather, damaged crops, road maintenance, rebuilding communities. These are all costs that fall onto all of us, all the taxpayers, and it's really important to keep remembering that as the governor's investments in the 21-23 biennial budget will not only help protect and preserve our state's natural resources, but these investments can provide economic opportunity across the state. This budget would be addressing the climate crisis that can provide unique opportunities and serve as economic relief for Wisconsin farmers, as we just heard, amid their own struggles. And this agricultural industry will benefit from an array of items in the governor's biennial budget proposal, including expansion of renewable energy, carbon sequestration, the creation of the Farm to Fork program, and increased investments in Buy Local and Buy Wisconsin program. There's a bunch of exciting things in here. One of them is creating the Office of Environmental Justice within the Department of Administration, which will facilitate collaboration across the state agencies and engage with environmental justice advocate communities of color, Native nations, and low-income populations to design climate policies that reduce emissions and pollutants and address the cumulative and deadly impact of their concentration within those communities. It also creates a Chief Resilience Officer within that Office of Environmental Justice to help develop and oversee the state and local government's risk assessment and resilience plans. This budget provides $1.8 million of GPR each year for grants to counties for each additional county conservation staff to support climate change resiliency efforts. We need to do this all from the bottom up, locally, statewide, nationally, and as we know, President Biden today is addressing the conference of 40 nations to introduce a very aggressive policy at the national level to reduce our climate impact in the world. This budget also invests $30 million in programs that help build resilient roads and infrastructure, restore wetlands to prevent catastrophic flooding, support farmers like we mentioned earlier when their crops are damaged, as well as an innovative first-of-its-kind program to help Wisconsin purchase flood insurance. Also in this budget, just trying to run through some highlights here, we provide $500,000 annually under the Wisconsin Fast Forward framework for training green jobs, and which would create career paths that we otherwise are not seeing. We also would put $4 million renewable and clean energy research grant in fiscal year 21-22, administered by the new Office of Sustainability and Clean Energy. We're taking this very seriously, folks. Climate change is an urgent matter that we have to address right now, right today, and not put this off another 4 years or 8 years as we saw in the previous administration. And we're so pleased and proud with President Biden's aggressive approach and with Governor Evers' aggressive approach of taking this on full force. And I appreciate you being here today, and any questions I'm sure any of us would be willing to answer if you have any. All right, it's going to be a long day, so enjoy.
Thank you, Senator Stern.
Thank you.
Thank you. And if anyone would like to do an individual interview